social media has always almost made me feel more lonely because you feel like you're surrounded by people, but you feel like there's not a great connection. I've just had to find other ways in my business to connect with people.
Hi, I'm Tori Mystic, and you're listening to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast, the only show dedicated to supporting women in all areas of the pet industry. Today, I'm sharing a conversation I had with Deanna Seymour. She's a branding and content strategy expert that I've gotten to know pretty well over the last year or so. Now, Deanna is not officially in the pet industry, although I know that she's definitely a pet lover. But this year, in an effort to bring you the best, most valuable, most actionable podcast episodes ever, I am branching out a little bit from the pet industry from time to time. So today, Deanna is talking to us about how to cultivate community beyond social media. This is something that she really knows a lot about. So maybe you're like Deanna and I, and you don't really enjoy being on the social apps so much. You're not feeling the love and feeling the connection that other people are. Or maybe you're spending a lot of time on the social media apps and you're just not seeing your efforts pay off there as new clients or revenue. Luckily, there are other ways to create community and grow your pet business that don't rely 100% on social media. Deanna has been hosting virtual networking events, and she co-hosts those with other people so that they're both bringing new people to the virtual networking room and building community that way. She also emails her list every Thursday without fail. In her weekly emails, she follows a formula that includes starting with a personal story. In this conversation, Deanna shares her advice for how to come up with your own stories so that you never run out of personal stories, and then how you can tie them in to what you do in your business. That's kind of the key, what separates your business emails from an email that you might send to your bestie. She also loves to use fun GIFs in her emails. They're funny, they help establish you as a friend to your email list subscribers, and they're a great way to transition from one of those personal stories to selling your products or services. And I love this because I actually first met Deanna through her GIF course. It's called GIF It Up, and she is offering it for half off just for Wear, Wag, Repeat listeners. That is so generous. Thank you, Deanna. So please check out the show description for a link to the course, and you can get it for just $25 and start adding custom GIFs to your emails. I actually did the course myself, and I created some cool GIFs that are available as stickers in Instagram stories. And so I use them to promote my podcast episode, but I'm actually going to go make some new custom GIFs for my emails after this conversation. So tune in, learn how to create a formula that you can follow with your emails to start to build community through your email marketing, and not just think of it as like an email newsletter or an email blast, but kind of a two-way form of communication that you can get to know your subscribers and they can get to know you. Sound like a plan? All right, let's dive into this episode and see what Deanna has to say. Deanna Seymour understands the power of creativity, fun, and community when it comes to building a sustainable business. She's all about bold branding, lively design, and making less content, but doing it better. With a mix of humor, empathy, and real talk, Deanna helps you feel more comfortable in your own skin so you can actually have fun with your content and connect with your perfect fit clients. When she's not hosting a pop-up networking party or working with clients, she's probably making gifts, hanging with her fam, or sneaking in some Real Housewives. Hey, Deanna.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm like sad because there's not a great season of Real Housewives on right now. I'm like waiting for the next big season to start. I think it starts in May.
I'm not a big Real Housewives person, I have to admit. So what is like the next city that there is that what you're waiting for?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like a new city, it's just a new season of New Jersey, I think is coming back soon.
Which is
So,
one of the juiciest ones, right?
yeah, they're sassy. I have a lot of cousins in New Jersey, so I'm always like, "Oh my gosh, hilarious." Like, spot on. I love
I'm
it.
Italian American, so I feel like the Jersey would like most appeal to me.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yes. Well, anyhow, welcome to the podcast. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to talk to you about ways that we can cultivate our community and generate relationships and connections with people without relying so heavily on social media.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm really into email marketing, and I know you are too. But we can talk about all kind of ways to grow our communities without necessarily having that mean social media. Because I think like over the last whatever 10 or 15 years that we've all dedicated our lives to social media, you hear all these marketing people that they're like, you have to build your community, and somehow that's become social media. But there are other ways, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I've never loved social media. Like, I wasn't on MySpace. I had a business at the time, like an Etsy crafting business called Missing Monsters. So I did have like a Missing Monsters page so I could sort of like lurk and see people and like go to shows or whatever, like find out what was happening, but I wasn't really like on it. And then I feel like in the early 2000s or like whenever Twitter started, I tried a couple times to join it, but I felt like, oh no, is this like funny enough? Is this cool enough? Like, I just have never fully loved social media the way I see other people loving it, which is totally fine for them. Like, I'm not, no haters on social media. Like, if you like it and you feel happy there, then that's awesome. I personally have just never been the type who has been into that. Like, even my mom before has been like, other parents, like other grandparents, like their kids, like show their grandkids online and they can like brag about them on Facebook, you know? And I'm like, I just don't, it just never has been like my thing to be like, first day of school with my kids, here they are. Like, it just never has been. So now at this point, I'm not even on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and what sort of like had a foot in TikTok for a second, but it's not sustainable for me because I don't really like it. But like you were saying, I do feel like there is sort of, whether it's like real or not real, a little bit of pressure as a business owner to show up somewhere. Like, I think it proves to people are looking on social media. So it's like nice to have a presence there. But for me, it is just not sustainable for that to be the way I build community. And it
Yeah.
doesn't resonate with me. It doesn't feel like community to me. It's like that saying, like recently I read something, I think it was somebody's Substack, and I can't remember who, so I can't give them credit, but like we have 1,000 friends on Instagram, but we have nobody to feed our cat when we go on vacation. And I'm like,
I listened to that podcast. Oh, I think it was Esther Perel who said that.
yes,
Yes.
okay. And I was like, dang, this hits home. That hit home for me because I was like, yes, that is how social media has always almost made me feel more lonely because you feel like you're surrounded by people, but you feel like there's not a great connection. So I've just had to find other ways in my business to connect with people. So,
Right.
yeah. I don't know if you
So,
want me to just like dive in. I'm like, am I
well,
just
yeah.
doing like a monologue here? Like, oh my God, I'm a talker. That's the other thing. I'm a talker. I want to talk to real people and I'm a talker. So social media always feels like performer and repliers. Like, it
Mhm.
feels too much like, what is that? Like parasocial people say? I don't know. Like, I just want to make real connections with people. And I can't do that. Like, it doesn't feel genuine to me all the time to do that in comments.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like so lately I've kind of been observing my own social media behavior as a consumer of social media. Because sometimes we're creators and sometimes we're consumers. And I deleted my TikTok app back in December because it was just making me not feel good. It was just everything was so consumerism driven, especially in December around the
Hmm.
holidays. And I just didn't want to be bombarded with like buy this thing constantly with like every single scroll was buy this thing. And so I deleted my TikTok app back then because I also didn't feel like TikTok was driving any revenue in my business. And if something's not driving revenue, then I need to ask, is this worth my time for my business? So I have been living without that. Oh my God, how am I surviving? But I do kind of like watching these short form videos, and I like to watch it for inspiration and just for fun while I'm eating my lunch or whatever. And so Instagram Reels just doesn't do it for me. Like flipping through Instagram Reels, it's all these things with text on the screen and a viral audio and like read the caption for more. And I just am like, I don't want to read the caption. I want to see all the entertainment that I want in this thing.
Mhm.
And so I have been actually scrolling away on YouTube Shorts. I
Oh,
think
cool.
people are putting a lot of their TikToks on there, so it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But what I have found, like in observing myself, is that the reason why I like it is because the YouTube shorts that are being delivered to me are generally people talking to camera. And they're a little bit longer, and it's like someone telling a story or sharing some kind of tip or something like this. And I really enjoy that. Watching something with a video with no voice on it, with just some trending audio, is not like I don't feel that connection and that community like you were just saying.
Mhm.
So yeah. So anyhow, like we are both talkers, obviously. We're here on a podcast. But I just think that we miss out a little bit on social media when we can't hear our voice, when it's just commenting or just watching things with music on them. Like I want to hear your voice.
Yes. I agree. I feel like this trend of B-roll, like you're talking about, like some like you working at your computer and some like text on top is it just feels like a graphic to me. Like it's not and it's like read the caption for more and yeah, like feeling like and we're on your podcast, we both like podcasts, but hearing someone's voice I think too is like I'm sure there's science to back this up that I don't know about, but it connects you. It the audio of hearing someone and like they're talking to you in the camera, that kind of connection. Those are the videos I'd rather watch. I also feel like sometimes I don't love learning when I'm scrolling. I'm like, I'm off the clock. Like you said, like I'm eating my lunch. I'm not trying to learn right now. And so like being story driven, I think is really crucial to building community or making connections with people. Which is definitely what I do in my emails. I mean, I know we're sort of talking about social media, but just to segue to other ways that I build connection, storytelling in my emails is like hands down my favorite thing to do. And actually, now that we're talking about the videos, I could probably do a better job of repurposing those same stories in some talking reels, which now I'm like, to be continued. Like
I love
now
some good
my
repurposing.
yeah, my brain is thinking, my gears are spinning, but yes. So I don't know. Do you want to dive into like different ways to build community? Is that
Yes.
cool?
Yeah.
Can
So
I
I think
okay.
this is a great segue because we've now kind of covered how, like, we want to hear from you, not just like some trending audio lame thing. We want to hear like your real perspective and your real story. So, what are some ways to do that? Like, email is obviously a great way to do that. And you're great at telling stories in your email. So, how can the petpreneurs listening here take advantage of this kind of strategy?
Yeah. Well, I tell stories, a lot of stories in my emails. Like almost everything sort of starts with a little nugget of a story. And my emails, I thought my emails were really long, but ConvertKit tells you at the bottom how many words it is, and they're really not that long. Like compared to some people's really long captions on Instagram, I'm like, oh, like I think I've told a story and it's kind of long, and I look and I'm like, oh, this email's like 300 words. I'm like, that's not a long email. That's not going to take somebody long to read. And I kind of have like a Google Doc where I just start putting stories in when I just notice them in my life or remember them. Sometimes they're memories. They're not necessarily like current stories. And I know sometimes when I talk about storytelling in email, people think, I'm just not that exciting. Like I'm boring. And I'm like, I'm a mom of two who drives a minivan and lives in suburbia. So like I am also boring. It is fine. I work from home. Like I spend 90% of my time in this guest room office. So I'm not living like some exciting, fast-paced life over here. And the stories that people are going to relate to the most are going to be boring stories. Like a story where I'm this awesome person who goes on this huge vacation and da, da, da. Like as the more exciting you get, the more amazing your stories are, like the less relatable they are to the people reading it. So I feel like I sent an email once about my son putting a bead up his nose, and we had to go to the emergency room to like get it out. And it turned into an email about knowing when to outsource things because my husband and I did try to DIY like getting that out for about 2 seconds, and then I was like, call it. We got to call it. Like, we need to take him to a professional. We're going to shove this bead even further out. Like, something bad's going to happen if we keep trying to dislodge this bead ourselves. We need to know, like, stay in our lane. And it was like a really funny way to loop it back to marketing and hiring and business. But like just the story of a bead of my son's nose, I got so many replies from people like, my kid stuck this up his nose. Like all these different funny things. And you wouldn't even think, like, how can this be an email? But like I said, it's just the funniest things. And then I also keep a folder on my desktop of email inspiration. So if I see a funny GIF and I have no idea like how I can use it, I'll just save it and put it in there. Or, every once in a while I'll come across like I'm going through like thousands of photos trying to organize my digital clutter, like family photos. Or my mom's been sending me like old photos of me. And if there's like a funny one with a friendship bracelet or something, I'll put it in that folder. And I don't even know what it's going to be yet. But when I have a week where I want to write an email and I don't have a story, I'll just look in there and be like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like there was one with me, speaking of New Jersey, dressed up as Snooki, like back in the day, like my friend had a Jersey Shore party. And I put that in there, like it's me on a fake duck phone, like New Jersey, whatever. And that became an email one time where I forget how I even talked about it, but just silly, funny little stories that you can tell people. Like it sounds weird to be like, to make them like you, but I guess that's part of like, no, I kind of like have a love-hate relationship with no like and trust because it sort of feels like you're trying to make them like trust you for something like bad. Like in my head, I'm like, ooh, and then you'll trust us and we'll like sell you something. Like it's all bad, but it's like it's not like that. But it's just, creating a relationship with somebody so that when they are ready, like my one-on-one services aren't cheap. So they might not immediately join my email list and be ready to pay me for a branding package. But if they're sticking around and they're like, oh my God, I love Deanna. She's so funny. Like her kid stuck a bead up his nose. My kid stuck a green bean up his nose. Like it's just kind of making like we're being friends. And now I sound like a weirdo who's in my office all day by myself. And I'm like, my email subscribers are my friends. But I do feel like it does create that, especially because they reply and I start to like know people. I'll tell my husband stories and be like, well, she's my friend. And then I'm like, well, she's on my email list. Like, whatever. And I'm like, whatever. Stop judging me. He's like, what? I'm not judging you. So I feel like I am creating relationships and it feels like more of a safe space than just out on the internet, like on social media for everyone. So
I totally agree. Because I think when you post stuff on social media, like we were just talking about this before we hit record, is sometimes you get these trolls, or like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to post about like this thing my dog did because what if someone sees it and judges me and I get attacked and canceled or whatever. But on my email list, these are all like my friends who have opted in to get my email. There's no trolls on my email list.
Yeah.
And I feel like especially as pet people, sending out stories of like my dog pooped in the middle of Home Depot and it was so embarrassing and this happened and that happened. Like these are the relatable things and people love to read that. And whenever I share stuff, like not always poop stories, but often poop stories, people are like, oh my God, that happened to me. And I love when you share this because it makes me feel like I'm not alone. Like I'm not the only person that this happens to. And I think it is important to share these kind of stories. And especially as pet people, we have so many. I mean, it's the same as like, not the same, but similar to kids' stories of like the kind of stuff they get into.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, totally similar. That's why now that we have kids, we don't have the kids and a dog because I'm like, oh my gosh, dogs are like, it's a lot. So I'm like, oh gosh, we can't have dog kids and real kids. So
it's a lot. Yeah. So for the people listening, I love this idea of keeping a Google Doc of just stories because sometimes it's hard to think of it on the spot when you're like, "Oh crap, I got to send an email today. Today's my email day. What am I going to write?" But if you had some afternoon, some day, some random day and you're like feeling inspired, just write down like 5 or 10 little stories and then you have this little library of your own that you can go to. Kind of like going to like the library, the sound library on Instagram, instead of going there and looking for inspo, like go to your own Google Doc.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, sometimes like stories will pop in my head and maybe it's not the right time for it. Like I hosted a dance party club at my daughter's school and it was like, I thought all these people were going to sign up and show up and it was really small, like 4 kids plus my daughter. It was like 5 girls. And I was like, oh God, I sort of feel like a failure in this like dance party club thing. And of course, my audience is entrepreneurs starting memberships, doing stuff like that. So I was like, okay, this is a great story, but I want to save it for the next time I'm talking about my membership and relate it to that. So once you start kind of, first of all, giving yourself permission to let like a flop of a dance party club be an email, like a story that you want to tell, because it's going to take some time also to start like seeing those ordinary stories as like content, but also not feeling like you have to use them right away, kind of thinking strategically and being like, oh, well, this is about community. So like this could be an email for when I'm talking about my community and how it's scary to launch a membership or whatever. So I definitely think starting that list, like you were saying, then you have your like your trending sounds, like your trending stories to go to pull from, and making sure that you can make a solid connection to your business. Like
Yeah, I
I
think this is
personally,
kind of the tough part is like
yeah,
with practice, you kind of figure out how this story of your dog pooping in Home Depot can somehow relate to like, pivoting in your business or being prepared for the unexpected or whatever. And it comes naturally to me. But for people who aren't doing this, like, how can they kind of strengthen that muscle of connecting the story to their business?
well, I think putting it on paper. So like we were saying, like making that Google Doc already. And then also thinking about like, well, what do I want to talk about? Like most of my emails are about showing up as yourself in your business or like growth mindset in your business and experimenting. So I have some like key things that I talk about, community, building a community with your business. And so I kind of have those things that I know I want to connect it to, which will make it way easier so that you're not just like, okay, how do I connect this to like dog owners or, snake owners or whatever, pet my people. And it's like this whole world of like, what do I need to connect it to? Try to narrow down what you're going to connect it to. Like, what is your audience in particular usually struggling with, or what would they want little pep talks about, or what could you teach them about? Because for me, when I open an email and it's like all teaching, I'm like, ooh, like I don't. As a former teacher, I sound terrible in this interview because I'm like, I don't want to learn on Instagram. I don't want to learn in my email, but I want to like read a book to learn. I don't know. I feel like it's like out of place for me, but I do love like a moral to the story is kind of how I think of it.
Mm.
So I sort of start the email with the story, and then it's as simple as transitioning. Like it's kind of like that's a great just line to be like, it's kind of like in business when or it's kind of like when you go to the pet store and this happens or whatever. Um,
Or this reminded me of blah, blah,
the
blah.
time, yeah, yeah, it's like one little quick sentence just to like transition into what I sort of consider the second half of my email, which is like a little more business. So I guess I'm the opposite of a mullet. I'm like party up front with the story, business in the back with my like ender. And honestly, if it fits your brand and your style, gifts are a really good way to transition. Um,
Mm.
and so I usually use like a reaction gif to sort of it's like almost like spliced into the email as a funny transition into
Of
the
like
business
a
part.
gif of someone saying like, "No way."
Yeah, or like a shrug is always good. Like my dog pooped in Home Depot, like, and then I was just standing there like not knowing what to do, and then like a shrug emote or a gif, and then you say like it's kind of like in business, when you have a flop,
Accidentally poop in front of everybody.
when the trolls come out and poop all over your content, like, what can you do about it? And then you sort of wrap up the email. So that's my, like, I'm just a very visual person. So the GIF is a really good way. Like, my emails are almost formulaic. Like, there's usually a graphic, because I also repost my emails to my blog. We talked about repurposing earlier. So the really good ones I put on my blog. And so I have a standard size that goes in there. So I have usually like a fun graphic to illustrate the story. Like the one with the bead up the nose was funny, like beads in the background and that little, like, those masks that are like glasses and big eyebrows and like a funny nose. That was like on there. It was like a funny little collage. So there's like the image, the story, the GIF to sort of move into the businessy part, the rest of that, and then I sign off. So once you figure out your quick form, like your formula of like, I'm going to tell a story, I'm going to connect it to something, and I'm going to like get in and out, 300 words, maybe 400 words sometimes if it's a long one, but they're not super long and super relatable.
And so do you always transition from a story into selling something? Like, what if you're not really selling anything at the moment?
That's a great question.
Should you still email?
Yeah. Yes. I email every single Thursday at 1:45 p.m. like a crazy person. The way my brain works, like I need a strict deadline, or else I would be like, I'm going to send it. Even if it was Thursday, I could see me doing it like 11 o'clock. Even if my deadline was just anytime on Thursday, I could see me doing it 11 o'clock at night. So I even say that in my welcome sequence of my emails. Like, you'll hear from me every Thursday at 1:45 p.m. And I do think some people, like, I don't think they're like sitting there refreshing, waiting for it. But I think they like kind of expect it at this point. It's been over a year that I've sent one every single Thursday at 1:45 p.m. And I think just the regularness of it, they're ready for it. I honestly don't sell a ton in my emails. So there could be a little bit of a trap where if you do like me, you might get sort of in the friend zone. But like I said before, most of my services are one-on-one services that are always open. And I'm really just showing up and reminding them that I'm here for them when they're ready. And at the bottom of my email, I usually share a client that I've done, like show off a client, show off what I've done for them. And there's a link to like book a discovery call with me.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a pet business where,
I can see this for like a dog trainer would be great.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like when you're ready, here I am, so that's kind of like always the call to action. Then sometimes I open my membership or I'm like in a promotional period for that. And I will write some more specific emails and send them like throughout the week. Like that ramps up like a little bit of a promo email period, what I would consider that. But my Thursday emails are very, like we were saying, community building. Like it's really just about me staying top of mind for them. So in a way, it's still selling, but it's just like every Thursday I'm there and I'm like, here's a funny story. Here's a little pep talk. And here's something cool I made for someone else.
Yeah. I could see like, especially for like the dog trainers and pet sitters and all kind of people. I mean, everyone who listens to this is helping pets and people in some way. So sharing some kind of client win or a testimonial at the end, you're also kind of like showing how proud you are of that person and what you help them achieve or that pet achieve. So I feel like that builds community. It shows like, oh, so-and-so really supports her clients and like she really wants them to succeed because here she is highlighting like what a transformation she made for this dog. So I feel like that's like kind of part like last month, our guest expert interview, we talked about your welcome sequence. And it was like share your brand secret sauce, which is, what makes you unique. You could have a great story for that. Share like your brand story of like why you do what you do. But then the next one after that was testimonials and social proof. And I feel like you could almost just take the 5 email welcome sequence and just repeat that, like write a new email for it, but use that as your structure. Like just repeat that. Let's do those 5 emails and then write new stories and send the same kind of not the same 5 emails, but you see what I'm saying? Like structure it that way so that the first one of the month is always your secret sauce. The second one of the month is always your story. The third one of the month is always a client win or something like that. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah, that would be fun. I mean, my brain loves a structure, but
Mhm.
my brain also loves like a unique to me structure because I've tried like I always try to like everyone's always trying to find a quick hack or a quick easy like here's the formula. So if you're listening and you're like, okay, Deanna said I tell the story, I put an image, then I put a GIF. Like that might not work for your brain. Like I've had people who hate GIFs and emails, and I'm like, oh, who are you? Like, how dare you? Because I just love them. In my welcome sequence, I'm like, fair warning, like I probably use too many GIFs, so be ready. Like, and I use emojis. And if that's not your personality or, or you're like, oh my gosh, she said go in Canva and make a graphic. I hate Canva. I love Canva. And that's like one of my favorite things I do each week is make those like funny graphics for my thing. And also it's like my business. So I'm very quick at it and it's super easy. So do not hear this interview and be like, okay, here's the formula. You have to find your formula. And it could just be a photo. Like I will say, I think putting graphics in your email makes it easier to read. Like not go crazy with graphics, but adding some photos. And for pet people, like that is so easy, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially like you were saying, if you're a dog walker or whatever, like tell a story of the dog you were walking that week or whatever. I'm like, used to be a child photographer. So I'm like, ask the pet parent first if it's okay for you to share about your email.
Definitely. Always make sure you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
But this is such full circle because I feel like I originally met you through your GIF course.
Oh yeah.
That I don't know how I even found through some kind of like Christmas like sign up for these courses things.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we are friends, real friends. But so one really cool way to make your emails stand out with a GIF is to make your own GIFs of you, and or your pets or whatever. And so you have a whole course that tells people how to do that. That's still available, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Should we do a coupon code for your people?
Yeah.
Can we do that? Is that
Yes.
okay? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do wear, wag, repeat. I can never say it. And you already know this about me. I stumble every single time. Yes. Okay. Wear, wag, repeat is the coupon code that I'll make up after this interview and they can get half off.
Oh my gosh, that's so
It'll be
generous.
25 instead of 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, so this is so exciting. And maybe this will spark me to go make some new gifts because I made a bunch to promote my podcast a long time ago when I first did it, but I think I need new ones.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh my God. I want to see these pet gifts. I mean, they'll be so cute. And great, like I said, great transitions, or then you don't even have to go in Canva. You just like use the GIF as your graphic.
This is something else I've told you is I feel like I waste so much time looking for the perfect GIF. It might be faster to just make it myself.
That is true. That is true. You can just make a bunch. Again, you'll have your little library of GIFs and topics and things like you. So we're going to have 3 piles and you can arrange them however you want, people who are listening. You're going to have a Google Doc of stories, ideas. You're going to have your Google Doc of topics you want to talk about. But Tori had a great idea with the welcome sequence, going back and listening to that and figuring out like maybe this one highlights a client. This one highlights a story, whatever. And then you're going to have your GIFs or maybe some old photos or something.
Or photos. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love a good throwback photo.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Like a puppy picture or like baby.
Or like you with your first pet.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there are so many stories that you just have to start, like you said, strengthen that muscle. I think once you get going and you get that momentum, you're like, oh, yes, I could tell about my first pet. I could tell about my last pet. I could tell about the next kind of dog I want to get, whatever. Like, it's so fun. Talk about an ugly dog. There's like funny, ugly dogs on the internet.
Yes. Yeah. I love like the world's ugliest dog is always like this Chinese crusted funky thing.
My friend entered one of those with their dog and they were like sad because they got, I think, like 6th place. Like he was the 6th ugliest dog in Richmond. But I was like, you can do better next time. Get uglier.
You have a year to get uglier.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Deanna, this was so fun. Where can people connect with you and find you on the internet?
Yeah. I mean, the best place is my website, which is deannaseymour.com. And you can kind of click around and see all the things and maybe get that gift course if you want it. And then on social media, I've been hanging out on Instagram and a little bit over on LinkedIn. And you can find me either of those places at the Deanna Seymour.
Awesome. Well, everyone go say hi. Get on Deanna's email list too, because it is really fun. And you can see, if you want to see an example, like I'm always signing up for email lists because I want to see examples of what other people are sending to get inspiration. So go sign up for Deanna's list and you can see how she structures stuff. If you are like, what are you talking about? You can just see it in black and white on your email. And thanks again so much for your time and sharing these great ideas with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Some of the best conversations happen after the episode. Send me a note on Instagram at WearWagRepeat, or find even more women petpreneurs to connect with in our private Facebook group called Wear, Wag, Repeat Labs. If you want to dig into more episodes, resources to grow your business, or find a link to something we discussed, it is all right there for you at wearwagrepeat.com. I'll see you back here next Wednesday for a fresh conversation.